Well, critics are saying that President Obama seems to be changing his tune on executive authority as he weighs U.S. military action in Syria. Back when he was campaigning for president in 2007, then Senator Barack Obama repeatedly slammed President George W. Bush for what he called a failed policy in Iraq, as well as accusing the former president of being too, quote, warlike with other anti-American nations like Iran. Here's some of that.
They suggest that the time for diplomacy and pressure is running out when we haven't even tried direct diplomacy. Well, George Bush and Dick Cheney must hear, loud and clear, from the American people and the Congress, you do not have our support and you do not have our authorization to launch another war.
That was back in 2007, and now we are on the cusp, perhaps, of more military action, this time going into Syria. Alan Colmes joins me now, host of the Alan Colmes radio show, and Katie Pavlich is the news editor at townhall.com. Both are Fox News contributors. Welcome to you both. A younger-looking Barack Obama, then Senator, now President Alan, and he has really always had, as so much of the core of everything he's talked about, you know, getting out of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And in fact, in the State of the Union, he talked about putting the decade of wars behind us. So what's your reaction to where we are today with Syria?
Great disappointment. I supported him as an anti-war candidate. I don't like, we had a surge in Afghanistan. We went into Libya against the very thing he talked about in 2007. According to the War Powers Resolution, he has to inform Congress within 48 hours of any kind of military action. Then he has 60 days after which he would need congressional authorization to continue a war. Now, that started in 1973, and that was violated both by Bill Clinton and Ronald Reagan. Presidents don't seem to want to pay attention, which is very, and even the War Powers Resolution is considered by many congressional scholars, constitutional scholars, to be a violation of the Constitution, where it's up to Congress to declare war. Yeah. This should not be happening.
Let's play another soundbite from Joe Biden, who has also taken a very different stance on this. Let's listen to that. It's a quote, excuse me. The president has no constitutional authority to take this nation to war, he says, unless we're attacked or unless there is proof that we are about to be attacked. That was back in 2007. And Katie, it's interesting, when I looked back at the quotes from the president in the interview that he did the other day with Chris Cuomo, he basically started suggesting that the chemical weapons that are present and have been used in Syria suggest that there is an American interest that may be being breached here in the larger picture. Is he laying the groundwork for his justification of this?
Well, yeah, but the American interest that he's laid out is his own red line that he laid out. There is really not a lot of American interest in Syria right now. You have al-Qaeda on one side, you have Hamas and Iranian-backed terrorist groups fighting on the side of the Assad regime. And so I think he's saying that in order to try and get more support. But when you look at it, we really don't have a lot of interest there. And I think when you look at the comments as a candidate, based on now, it's always easier to be the guy criticizing an administration from the outside in, right? Yeah. But what's unfortunate is that the Obama administration is not holding themselves to the same standards that they held to the Bush administration, even though the Bush administration did the things they were supposed to in terms of getting Congress in on these war resolutions.
Let's take a look at the poll, because you referenced how the people feel about this Syria situation, and the question was, if Syria used chemical weapons, should the U.S. military get involved? 31% say yes, 37% say no. Alan, and you know, the other question is, you know, where is the outcry from people out there who feel this way if they don't want this president who they elected to get them involved in this?
Well, I'm one of them who doesn't want him to get us involved in this. I agree with what Colin Powell said. We should be very, very careful and not get in the middle of what could be a civil war. And Dennis Kucinich, who said we actually become al-Qaeda's air force if we actually go in now and do this. We're going to be perceived as taking the side of al-Qaeda. We don't even know all the elements that make up the opposition. So the idea that we would be taking sides at this point would be a terrible idea.
Let me ask you this, Alan. You know, when you look at this situation and the chemical weapons and, you know, the 100,000 people who were already killed in this confrontation, this civil war in Syria, where do you think, you know, the American people need to stand up against this kind of action? Isn't America the sort of beacon that is supposed to step in when there is this kind of atrocity taking place?
We can't be the policeman of the world. We can't go every place where there's a trouble spot. We can't afford it. We can't interject ourselves into what is basically a civil war. I think we can support democracy where it starts to emerge, but for us to go if we go into Syria, do we go into Africa? Where do we go? Where do we draw the line in terms of what we support and what we don't, and where we put our dollars in American treasure and don't?
That is the big question. Katie and Alan, thank you very much. Serious times as we take a look at it. We'll talk to you both soon. Many thanks for being here today.